I'd like to call the City of Elkhorn Standing Committee for Financial and Judicial to order. Roll call, please.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Here.
Scott McClory,
Here.
Ken Minell.
Here. Okay, we're here for discussion and possible decision regarding proposed 2025 to 2029 capital improvement plan. Adam?
Yes, before we start, would anybody like any hard copies of the chart that was in your council packet? If you'd like to look at a hard copy. Any hard copy fans? Apparently not. Okay, well, if you change your mind, let me know. We've got hard copies. Looks like the mayor's gonna. Thank you, Mayor, for at least saying one. I appreciate it. So since the last meeting, we made a few just minor additions to the CIP, incorporating the increased price of the ambulance as well as the 2024 brush truck. Both of these things were previously ordered and delivery's been delayed, so those have just been added for record-keeping purposes. Katie, just from a grant perspective, Katie's added the $5,000 speakers for the rec department as well as the pickleball courts, which are 26 and 27 projects, to her community wish list. So she's going to encourage people who are interested in donating to the city to donate to those projects.
Yeah, 1 second. Can we go back to the ambulance?
Yep.
So maybe I misunderstood this or didn't hear it correctly. I know that the ambulance was delayed. The delay was on their end, not on our end. Maybe I don't remember us talking about jacking this up about $50,000. Because shouldn't they have agreed to the ambulance at that rate, and we're gonna get delivered to us at that same rate? So why are they charging us another 50 grand?
I can answer that, sir.
Okay.
So I had come back in here, we moved it from a van chassis to a pickup truck chassis.
Okay, that was
So we
yep,
realized
I'm with you now, okay.
that we get more life cycle.
Okay.
out of it.
Because obviously, none of us are in favor of, guess what, I know we promised you this vehicle 2 years ago, but now it's 60,000 more, which they've tried to do, I know, with police vehicles in the past. Thank you, that refreshed my memory. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay, so items have been added to the wish list for potential donations. Segueing on to some very specific CIP-related questions that we were looking for a kind of a final answer from the F&J committee on. One of those being the 2025 stormwater dredging project for Elkhorn, the stormwater pond, or I should say the wetland area near the Elkhorn West subdivision. I know in the last meeting it came up about, well, there might be grant funding available that would be potentially you could apply for in 26 to be able to do the project in 27. I looked at the grant requirements. It all was very, very specific to property acquisition. It really was not related to being able to do a project from what I could tell. So I know Naomi said she thought it was mostly property acquisition, but she thought you might be able to do it for a project. So just as an FYI, it didn't seem like we'd be a great candidate for that grant based upon what the criteria were. So
On that, Naomi also said that, what we did do a couple years ago has been working. Is it perfect? No, but it's definitely gone in the right direction. And doing this is not going to be the solve-all either. I would not be in favor of spending this kind of money at this point in time. It's my opinion. Scott? Ken?
Well, I know, go ahead, Ken.
It really didn't seem like it's gonna solve the whole problem. And I agree with Gary on that. It's just another Band-Aid. I don't know whether that's to please the people out there that are complaining, but if we can't fix it right, I mean, we're just pouring money into it. We're gonna have to come back and do something else down the road, evidently, to fix it completely. So I don't think we should spend the money on it either.
And my personal takeaway from the descriptions that she gave, and I think Matt echoed this as well, is the most recent water event, air quotes, the worst thing that happened was that the water and some residences went halfway up the driveway, that was it. Not basement flooding and sewage backups and some of the other stuff that we've all had to contend with from that subdivision in the past.
Right.
So I'm with you in that, probably putting this on on the shelf for right now, especially in how lean we are right now with the budget, I would agree.
So, and that note, what, ask a motion to,
I don't think it
Do I have to ask for
needs a
motion?
motion. We just wouldn't include it in the
Just
budget,
don't
wouldn't we?
include
Yeah, I mean, if you either can make a motion or just from this feedback, I will take it out and it will not
Take
be
it out.
on the, it will not be on the proposed CIP that goes to the council.
okay, thank you.
And for clarification, for clarification, do you want that moved to, 26, 27, 28 as a placeholder? Or do you not want it on there at all, or what's
Put
your?
the 28 for now,
I
subject to
think,
remove.
didn't Naomi say she'd like to watch what's happening out there for a
Right.
couple of years?
But if we put a placeholder in it and we
Yeah,
come back
so-
in 2028, we're status quo, we just remove it again.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's, I'm good with that.
so 28.
Okay.
28? Yeah.
Good.
Fine.
So if the west side subdivision floods again, and considering, according to the original designs, it's never been finished, will we still be able to use the words functioning as designed and not have to make the payments on the insurance? Because that situation exists here.
I don't think that's part of this discussion. I don't think we can have that right now. It's not part of the, meeting.
Well, it definitely is key to this piece of property and how we deny claims.
Well, as it was stated in the last meeting, was the improvement we did make was a substantial improvement,
I didn't say it
25%.
wasn't substantial.
So, well, hear me out, because right now you're out of order. So 25%, and then if we did this, at most would be another 25%. This is not a solution end all. The idea behind it is to see over time how this is working, because we definitely have made an improvement from where it was. And then if other decisions have to be made in the meantime, such as that grant where it required purchasing property or whatever, at that point, then the city would pursue those options. It doesn't mean we're not gonna look at it if something happens. It means we're not putting it on the capital improvement plan to allocate $372,000 and some change to something that we don't believe from a committee standpoint makes sense to do at this point in time. Okay? Okay, thank you. Let's move forward.
Just a quick follow-up on that. It just occurred to me that if you want to explore other options and you still want to apply for that grant, you'd have to do that in 26 in order to do the project in 27. So do you want to potentially
But you just said
discuss
it
this?
requires land acquisition.
It does. I'm just saying if for some reason you were looking to do something else with this project, do you want to discuss this sooner than 2028?
You know,
It doesn't hurt us to discuss it in 26, does
right,
it?
well, we,
It
you know,
saves us 2 years.
right, putting it on the CIP for 28, this. However, things happen, well, we
Okay.
meet twice a month. It's no big deal to add it in and say, hey, we need to bring this forward and we need to talk about other options. And if Katie James works her magic with other ideas, with these grants, the other options for the city to pursue, then we'll definitely look at it.
Okay,
Does that help?
sure. Other questions, one was, do you still want to proceed with the 2025 Westward Drive reconstruction project? And if that's a yes, do you want to narrow that roadway to the normal city standard of 28 feet and include a sidewalk? And I know this was a question that Matt raised, so.
Matt, can you bring up the map?
Yeah, I'd like an aerial view of it.
Yeah, please.
Is that close enough, or are you?
Yeah, this just connects from what church and the other way,
Church over.
Franklin.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you know, look at like, Rockwell, Randall, Windsor, these streets all have sidewalks on both sides, narrower profile, cross-section rather. And Westward is just, it's a lot wider. For what reason, I'm not sure. I would just say by narrowing it, talking with Joel, would obviously look to reduce speeds and, being able to add sidewalk for connectivity, it's less of a section to maintain. I did provide an option in the CIP to just resurface this, which would not allow us to reconstruct the water main and also the sanitary sewer laterals. But we could resurface for around, I think it was like 400,000. Did you have that in your memo, Adam, by chance?
About the resurfacing only option?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
How old is the sewer and water?
I mean, the water, the sanitary sewer, we're actually looking to line this year. And when we recon the project, if that's what the council chooses to do, we would just replace the laterals. I don't know if I have a good answer for you on the age of the utilities. I'd have to go back and look, but Joel, I mean, living in the area, can you ever remember when?
I don't ever remember it being done.
So is it possible that it could be 30, 40 plus years?
Yes.
And if you added sidewalks, we would just be taking away the current roadway, we would not be encroaching into the current curb?
It would be encroaching into it a little bit. I mean, we'd have to dig into some more information. I mean, right now, I think the roadway width is 34 feet. We measured it, and if we did 28, that's to flange to curb. So that would be, we have a 30, so 65 feet. So that'd be a 33-foot wide roadway, back to curb, and then we could place sidewalk, ideally 5 feet off of that. So we could have them run a section through there. I mean, it's possible that some of these trees might be in jeopardy. I know some of them, we've gotten calls about how they're kind of overgrown and in the roadway, especially down in this area here too. I sure don't want to lose any trees. Some of these are really offset, so I don't think they would be in jeopardy. I mean, right now, what's in the CIP includes narrowing it down to our city standard of 28 feet, flange to curb, which is where the gutter's at, and then adding sidewalk on both sides. We've not spoke to residents, not that I'm saying, I'm just giving you the full story.
Are there sidewalks that run down Church Street in Franklin?
Yeah, Church, there's sidewalks on both sides. Looks like just on one side, south of Westward.
Okay.
And we're looking to incorporate them as much as we can on Centralia when that gets redone in 2026, hopefully.
What about Franklin?
Franklin starts at West Rockwell Street, so there'd just be a one block gap that you may want to consider addressing at some point in time to ensure you have that connectivity. But I don't know, you may recall when West Rockwell Street was reconstructed, we went to the recommended standards at the 28 feet to give it that narrower, more residential feeling. Because we currently have actually complaints on Westward Street for the vehicle speeds itself. And it has helped significantly on West Rockwell Street reduce those speeds. It's for the most part single family. There is only a few duplexes towards the east end of Westward Street itself, and there is not considerable on-street parking right now, even with those duplexes. So I think narrowing the roadway in a public safety perspective makes an awful lot of sense. I think the residents would greatly appreciate it as well.
Yeah, I think it would give, I know Joel and I have talked about it too, but it would give the perception of a larger yard. Even though it's within the right of way, you get more green space.
Get more taxes. Well, you transfer ownership, right? I mean, you make it 28 foot wide instead of 34.
It's in the right of way.
City owned.
Yeah. So Ken or Scott, any thoughts?
If we have the money and we can figure out a way to put it in the budget, I certainly think it should be still up for consideration. I know we made a commitment X amount of years ago that any new, work on roads that didn't currently have sidewalks, we'd put them in. Because there's a lot of people, and I know we've talked about this street multiple times over the last 20 years, and the neighborhood there wants the sidewalks. They think it's dangerous with the school buses and traffic and whatever, because you have to walk in the road. There's no sidewalk. So if we're gonna take it on, I think it absolutely has to include the sidewalk component, in my opinion, even though it is an additional 200 grand. I don't know if some of you all remember some of the complaints we've gotten from the people over there.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Being the ex-alderman for this district, I've talked to a lot of the neighbors there, and I think this has been on the CIP for 5 or 6 years.
Right.
And the ones I've talked to are adamant they want the street fixed, and I've asked all of them if there's a problem with having sidewalks, and they all want them.
Yep,
That's
that's my recollection too.
probably 6 of the neighbors there, and then maybe there's 30 houses, I don't know, but if that's a big enough sample, but
I think it's, like the chief said too, it's a safety issue. We aren't doing it just because, we wanna do it. But that plays a big part of it too. And to put sidewalks in, we know they're important. So if we can do it, I think we should.
Okay, so leave it in.
And just for clarification, this isn't a final, I mean, you guys can
Right.
still change your mind later, but this is just so we, not only for the CIP, but then when we talk to Kapoor about presenting a task order to do the design work, kind of know what direction, at least to have them start working on, so.
Yeah, we actually have that task order, so whenever we can bring it back.
And of course, the other side of the coin is what are we gonna remove out of the budget? Because if we're gonna spend upwards of $1.5 million, something's gotta go, right? Or are we still good?
No, this is included in the CIP right
Oh,
now.
we're still within the budget,
Yeah,
okay,
Yeah,
all right.
this was in the CIP, which is, because it is a street project for next year, we would have to know.
But to Tim's point, we've talked about this in the proverbial kicking the can down the road kind of thing, and it's just gone on way too long, for way too many years.
And then you also probably saw my memo that I got a request, or I should say we got a request from the county to contribute to their renovation of the Webster House in 2026 and 2028. So I thought I would present that to you guys.
We don't have the money. We don't have the money. That's my thought, but we don't have the money.
Again, if you're gonna try to include this, what are you gonna remove? What are you gonna give up? Do we have a sense, Adam, that the county's gonna take on this project regardless? Because it says they're planning on funding 50% and seeking the remaining 50% from the city or other nonprofits. So are they saying we're not doing anything towards the Webster House until we get the other 50% from somebody? Or do you not know? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I think,
I mean, it's
yeah,
a
I'm
great
not gonna
idea.
speak for them.
Huh?
I said, yeah, I can't really speak for them other
Yeah.
than what their email said.
Okay. I'm with you. I just don't see us, in light of all the other stuff the city plates are spinning, we just can't do this. As much as I'd love to be part of it.
Was there a grant or something if we got involved? Matt,
Well, it's certainly a historical monument, or a historical building, I mean. So,
And they're already pursuing the band shell, which is, that was already on the docket. So committee, no, we're not pursuing that at this time? Okay. There's your answer.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep.
I guess, are there any other projects that you guys are looking to either add or take out of the CIP as you see so far? Or that you want moved from one year to the next?
You're good?
I'm good.
Ken? I'm good. No, we're good.
Okay. Then this gets to the other topic that Alderman McClory started to talk about, which was the budget for next year, and specifically the general fund budget is of greatest concern because of our expenditure restraint in order for us to qualify for the, free money from the state for the expenditure restraint, we have to keep our, we can't increase our expenses more than 3.7%. And so we'd have to reduce our general fund budget by $153,000. Now, I will say, I kind of listed some different options for doing that. Right off the top, the PD had inadvertently included $34,000 in office furniture and equipment that they didn't mean to include. So if you take that out of there, that gets us part of the way there.
Thanks, Joel.
So, then the other part is we did get a final answer about the health insurance. Our $60,000 estimate in terms of what we could reduce the general fund budget by is pretty spot on. So, so once you factor in the 60,000 from there, those two things together, you're now at, $94,000. So of the, 153 that we're looking for. So basically at this point, we need to reduce it a further $58,000. There's two options, and one option would be to actually blend the two options together. So one option is to sort of reallocate the wages, part of my wages and the wages for the admin assistant for Public Works and Zoning to the Community Development Fund, because of the fact that we do a lot of work for community development. So, I mean, it would be most accurate or reflective of how we're using our time, but it would also help the general fund budget as well. And that would save just about $60,000, $57,440. Alternatively, we have about $60,000 in budget reductions for some of the items you see included on page 4 of my memo. One would be scaling back let me back up and say, these are big ticket items that we've actually increased the budget significantly for next year. So we had proposed to increase the PD software maintenance services from $49,000 to $90,000. So one option would be to scale that back to $83,000, so basically reduce it by $7,000. Fire department, same thing. We've increased the vehicle maintenance services from $27,500 to $65,000. One option would be to scale that back by about $15,000. Pool, they've been looking to do some repairs. One option would be to cut back what repairs they'd be doing in '25. Currently, they're looking to do some slide painting, rail replacement, check valve replacement, sealing the surge tank. So they wouldn't be able to do all of it, obviously, if we were to reduce that amount. And then the other part of it is, right now the police department has a part-time CSO position that most of the year is unfilled because, to get somebody for about a month and then they take a full-time job somewhere else. So there's $16,000, almost $17,000 in the budget that you could either remove it entirely or just scale back the amount that you're budgeting for and say, let's say cut it in half, accounting for the fact that most of the time it's not actually being filled. So that's an option. And just one thing for the pool maintenance, I talked to Matt earlier. One option might be, let's say for this one, and there may be some other projects as well, that we might be able to try and get some of those done this year before the end of the year, because we do have some savings elsewhere in the budget. So if we could pay for some of those and get them done this year, then obviously it wouldn't impact us for next year. How much of that we can actually do, Matt's gonna look into, at least for some of those pool costs, but there may be a couple of areas like that, even with some of the equipment that the PD wanted, that we might be able to buy this year and not carry over to next year. So that's just an additional wrinkle to this, but just one potential option would be, rather than cutting 60 from the equipment and or moving 60 from the wages, do 30 of one and 30 of the other temporarily until we can find out what we can potentially buy this year that wouldn't have to carry over to next year. And you might not have to end up really cutting any of those for next year. So that's just another option.
And if we run into a situation where we don't have the money, what are the ramifications of some of these things, like say the pool, instead of 72, it's only 30. Are we gonna have some long-term effects? It's gonna end up costing us a lot more later, where it's gonna be detrimental damage. Those are the types of things we should consider as well. Just pool, but in general, everything that we're talking about. last thing you wanna do is say, okay, I'm not changing oil in my car anymore because I can't afford it. Well, what happens when you don't change oil in your car?
And Matt, do you want to talk about the necessity or critical nature of some of these outdoor pool items?
Well, I actually might do a close review, which might show some of it. The big one that I'd say is, right now, we're looking at, there's plaster on top of the concrete, and it's starting to delaminate from the concrete, so we sounded it today, and we're gonna look to replace the areas that are not bonding to the concrete, but eventually, we're gonna have to replace all of the plaster, so we're trying to do somewhat of a, get us through the next couple of years, but we're getting numbers together. It'll probably be something we put like 27, but that'd be like possibly a $200,000 item. The one that we're doing right now, just to kind of get through, is a $25,000 item. It really needs it. I mean, it's a matter of not opening the pool. If we happen to get some spots next year that start to flake off, either on the bottom of the pool, now kids are cutting their feet, so I think it's well needed. As far as the slide goes, it's just, with the sun, the chlorine, they really just start to fade, and yeah, it's gonna be hard to see from here, but if you've seen these, they were supposed to be bright orange, now they're just a really light orange, so it's more of an aesthetic thing and just keeping up on the maintenance. We just had some tile work done this year, which was, a lot of the tiles were coming off, and same thing, it was getting to where we would try to limp it along, but this year we finally got it replaced, so the pool's getting to the age where we're gonna have to start doing more, I'll say, larger scale projects. So again, it's an aesthetic thing for the slide painting. The surge tank, I was telling Adam, I mean, that's inside the building, so we could, look to do that this winter possibly, if we want to utilize some of those surplus dollars, if you want to call it that, in order to make sure that we're still getting the work done, but not having to budget for it next year. I don't know if that helps or not. If that answers your question.
Why are we showing such a dramatic increase, nearly doubling 24 to 25 on stuff like software and vehicle maintenance? Is that driven by the contract? Like you knew that the software maintenance was gonna go from 49 to 90 from one year to next?
Was that something
I'm talking to Joel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It says 2024 49, 2025 90. I mean, you already knew that from the vendor, that it was gonna jump up that much, and same thing with fire suppression going from 27 to 65? We already forecasted that and saw it coming that much? I mean, it's almost, huh?
For fire apparatus, I can tell you what the issue is they're old and they are out of date. Right now, I have 4 apparatus out of service. I got a ladder truck that doesn't work, I got a pumper tanker that is down, and I'm waiting on parts because it's so antiquated. I have 1 engine that's been out of service more than it's been in service due to lack of maintenance, and now I need a whole gear case for it, for the pump. And so we're in rough shape at the fire department right now.
Yeah, vehicle maintenance isn't the place to cut. Not there anyway.
I'd have to look at the software expenses. Scott, I believe this was in concert. Adam,
Is this
you
Pro
had-
Phoenix software?
Well, no, would be one of the items in that.
Yeah.
But it's also like our third-party provider for Heartland
Okay.
to provide the maintenance services and the such. So that would also be in there.
All right.
I know, I think today I just got the bill from Pro Phoenix for next year's, and it's close to 15,000 now, I wanna say, for next year. I wanna say it's 14,900, so.
Okay.
Yeah, just so you know, they've already, I'm not saying this is critically, I'm just saying, the PD already has spent $60,000 through September on software services, or billed 60,000, so that's why, when you're prorating what they're spending each month, that's why we're looking to budget the 90.
So based on what I'm hearing, the criticality, definitely with the fire department, is we're paying for the sins of the past. But, it's something that we should not cut, in my opinion. Maybe we go back and look at one of your other options of moving some of the wages into the areas where you're spending the time. And those accounts should be charged accordingly, which is not uncommon. So,
No, that's true. Yeah, the more you're helping out the community, the more you can transfer the liability.
Yeah, the only thing I would just say, with the community development fund, I mean, their revenues are limited in the sense that, I mean, the lodging tax goes in there, but we have to give 70% of that lodging tax to the chamber, so we only keep 30 of it. And then, we keep just a small fraction, 25% of the building permit fees. So in terms of revenue sources, I mean, there aren't a ton of revenue sources, and then we obviously pay out a lot for zoning and code enforcement services, and they don't bring in much.
So even with the reductions you're forecasting, we're still short, how much that we need to still reduce in the general fund?
Well, if you either moved the 60,000 in the wages or the 60,000 in the proposed items on here, that would cover it.
Okay.
Or if you did 30 of one, 30 of the other. And then again, there may be some options, like I said, talking to Matt about some projects we could try to get done this year, maybe even having PD try and order some of the equipment this year. So there may be some ways to finesse it.
so we have 60 grand left over right now for 24 that we could allocate?
No, I'm saying this would, either the 60 of the wages or the 60 of the equipment.
No, I'm saying is we talked about bringing some stuff into 2024. How much, we
Yeah.
said we have some funds available.
Yes.
How many funds do we have available?
Well, we're estimating that we're under budget right now, and I say under budget, meaning the expenses are lower than expected, but also we've gotten additional revenues because of interest was higher. We got more street aid, than they originally projected and stuff. So right now, we've tentatively estimated about 460,000 would be positive net revenues for '24. So we would need at least 100 of that to cover the general fund deficit, just generally speaking. But the bigger issue is, even though we have those funds, we can't necessarily use those funds for the expenditure restraint. Even if you have the money, you can't spend it. I mean, that's the problem, so it's a expense issue. Which is why if we had some items that we could buy this year rather than next year, we could use some of the extra we budgeted for this year that we haven't used.
Well, getting the pool fixed this year help us, put us in the right direction?
It would if we can, but the question is whether or not. they
Yeah,
can
some
get
of
the
it's
work
weather
done.
sensitive, trying to work outside and get plaster work done in these colder temperatures. I mean, with the surge tank, it's possible we might be able to get that done during, winter weather conditions or.
Well, you were talking about the bottom of the pool, I didn't realize it was plaster.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can purchase in 2024, and if the weather turns too cold to use it, we can still use it after, like, the spring, or is it that time sensitive where, you don't want it sitting around for 6 months before you put it back down again?
This is something that we contract out, and I think that I know that some of our vendors would be willing to, if
In talking to Corey, she says if we need to make sure that for purposes, the service would actually have to be done in '24.
Okay. I was just telling Adam that earlier this year, like for the pool mat we ordered, they wouldn't even put it into production unless we put half down. So, we put it half down. So, and then they wouldn't even ship it until we put the other half down. So, which we did, and we got the pad and everything's fine. But, there might be some things you could look to do that. But if you have to have it completed in '24, then that might be more difficult. So I'll just have to check in. Adam brought that up to me today about looking into it further, and it was after 3:30, so I can bring it up tomorrow with our streets lead who takes care of the pool, see what his thoughts are on pulling some of those 25 projects forward to 24.
Just keep us posted.
Yeah.
Well, one way or another, we gotta come up with it. And, the committee's thought is not to touch the fire department especially, right?
The fire and the police.
Fire and police have gotta.
Well, doesn't it make sense Adam's already spending the time in the community. If we're talking about moving that money, that takes care of the problem, right?
Right, well, right now, we're trying to give him flexibility before it comes before full council. So the
Right.
things that he might as well stop looking at is cutting the fire department and not cutting, police. Those have gotta stay. Okay?
Well, in the amended budgets that Joel and the chief were kind enough to provide us now have dropped those numbers down a few $1,000s. Are those still okay? Like to go from,
Just for clarification, those were not kindly provided by, the police chief. They were.
well, I don't care I don't give a crap who
suggestions.
provided it. My point is, the numbers have been shaved down, even by a few $1,000s. So can we still live with those numbers? Can we still live with vehicle maintenance in 2025 being at 50, not 65, or the police maintenance being, for the software, going down from 90 to 83? If the answer is no, then just say no. If the answer is yes, I can get by, I wouldn't like it. You know, as we always say in these meetings, it's, you can drive out of here in a Maserati or you can drive out here in a Geo Prius, but you can still get sometimes to the same location. So are those numbers something that you guys can,
At this point, honestly, that gear case alone, with what I have wrong with the one engine, is gonna be 25 to 30,000. And I don't know what else is gonna break next year. It's just getting to the point where they're so old, they're having a hard time finding parts. And
Yeah.
I'm afraid what's gonna break down next. And even the ladder truck that I'm looking at, that 2025 aerial platform that's on there is not a new apparatus. That's buying an older apparatus and doing a complete refurb. And the problem that we may run into, and I just wanna be upfront and honest, is when a manufacturer makes a vehicle, you got about a 20-year life cycle on parts after that. So if we're looking at refurbing one, at what point are we gonna be in the same boat we're in right now? Where we're having a hard time finding parts, even though it's refurb.
right.
In half the time. But half the, I mean, it's not.
I guess my recommendation is to keep massaging the numbers and see if there's anything we can do in 2024 with the pool. But it, like you guys already mentioned, it's gotta, whoever this company is, whoever's gonna contract it, even if they come in and do two days worth of work, it's 2 days we're getting done in 2024. That's my opinion.
Ken?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got enough to work with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do we need to set another date?
Yeah, or,
Because as you get closer to November, people start disappearing for deer season and family stuff and whatever, so. And like I said, we gotta have the budget signed before Thanksgiving, that's our goal. I'm not speaking for the chairman, but I fully expect to meet it like we do every year.
I guess at this point, I don't know how the F&J committee feels about, at this point, moving forward with the full council in terms of coming back with you guys have, it seems like, provide some final opinion about the CIP. Obviously, the budget, we're still trying to massage a couple of these items, but to have you certainly can have another F&J meeting if you want, but if at this point you want to put it on the next, keep putting it on the council agendas going forward for further discussion.
Well, everybody except Ron is here,
oh,
so, if anyone,
yeah, I would not be opposed to moving it to the council, with the, like we did last year where we just put an item on there, so if there was something to discuss, we
Right.
discussed it, if not, just push it on.
Yep.
From a committee standpoint, I think we've done our due diligence. I'd be in favor of that.
I would too.
So need a motion to go ahead and,
Yeah, I'll make that motion to send it on to the council and leave it as a standing item on all future city council meetings for discussion, if and possible decision-making regarding budget/CIP. And if nobody says anything, if we get to November, it's okay, it's time to vote yes on the budget and we're done. Nobody can say, I never got a chance, I didn't know, whatever.
all right, so we have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, any more discussion? It's probably money, so we should probably do a roll call.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.
Yes, so motion carries to move the budget onward and forward. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.